Hi guys, this is Senior Martin. I am going to be showing you the verb querer today. Querer means to want. Now before we start learning this, I'm going to need you guys to get out your yellow irregular verb sheets. This is very similar to your purple AR verb list that you guys made last week. Your yellow sheet I gave to you prior to that, so you should all have one. If not, I will have made a couple extra copies that will be on that front table that you may grab. Go ahead and pause this video, and when everybody is ready to start writing, go ahead and push play. Alright, if we are ready, you're going to want to go ahead and put querer on the line under infinitive. And querer means to want. Now notice that there's an ER at the end of this verb. ERs are normal verbs, but this one's kind of a different one. It's called a stem changer, and that's why we're putting it on our irregular verb sheet. And I'm going to show you why it's irregular. First off, if you go under the yo form, you are going to write quiero, yo quiero. What makes this different is typically this would normally stay the way it should, UE. But notice they throw an I in there and they call this a stem changer. So go ahead and make sure you spell it correctly. It would be yo quiero, Q-U-I-E-R-O. The to form, you are going to be writing tú quieres. Once again, instead of it being U and E, they added an I in the middle. So it's Q-U-I-E-R-E-S. Tú quieres. For the he and she form, also U formal, so usted, it would be él quiere, ella quiere, or usted quiere. And all you're doing is taking off that S, but it's just like the to form, you're just taking off the S. But once again, you see that random I in there, and that's what makes it a stem changer. Now, whenever it's an irregular verb, 90% of the time, the we form stays the way it should. So this is the only time on this stem changer that you're not going to see this weird I. You're just going to change it a normal way. You're going to say Q-U-E-R-E-M-O-S. Queremos. Now, I know you haven't seen ER and IR verbs yet, but you're noticing it's kind of a trend. When we were doing our AR verbs, notice if it was the to form, you took your AR off and added AS. If it was the he or she form, you took your AR off and added A. Just like these. This is what same thing happens. The only difference is you're doing E's at the end instead of A's. So knowing that, what do you think that the they form or the ustedes form is going to be? What's your guess? If you guessed quieren, you were correct. You took your ER off and you added an EN. Okay? And with the they form, let me find my little, there it is. With the they form, once again, you're going to throw that I in there. Now, if you were planning on using the vosotros form, the one that's done in Spain, go ahead and put queráis. Most of you don't do that, but if you are interested in putting the one from Spain, go ahead and do that now. So I want you to repeat after me. Are you ready? We're going to do the yo form first. Yo quiero. Tú quieres. Él quiere. Él quiere. It'll be the same one. So we're going to say ella quiere. And then usted quiere. All three of those use quiere, just like in the AR verbs. Okay? Now we're going to go down to the we form. Nosotros queremos. Okay? And then we're going to go down to the they form. Ellos quieren. All right. Hopefully you got those down. If not, go ahead and push pause and get them written in. Now that we know these, this is an irregular verb, just so you remember. Okay, so like me gusta, when you use querer in a sentence, the next verb has to stay in infinitive. And if we remember what an infinitive is, it's a verb that hasn't been changed. So just like this example down here, when we remember how to say I like to sing, we would say me gusta cantar, because we're saying to sing pleases me. Okay, when you have a verb already conjugated, you may not conjugate the second one. So anytime you're going to say I like, then remember the next word had to be an infinitive. So me gusta bailar, me gusta cantar, me gusta cocinar, me gusta dibujar. Okay? The same thing goes with I want. So when you say I want, you say quiero or yo quiero. I know that's what you're thinking, some of you, because you don't see the I in there. You may say yo quiero, but you don't have to. You say yo quiero cantar. I want to sing. I'll give you a second to write those down. Push pause if you need to. Okay, moving on. I want you to write this sentence down. ¿Qué haces el fin de semana? ¿Qué haces el fin de semana? What that means is, what do you do on the weekends? I'm sorry I didn't put an S at the end of my weekend, but you know what I mean. Do not forget to use your upside down question marks. Hopefully you remember how to do that. Okay, so if somebody says, what do you do on the weekends? Usually say, I like to go out with friends, I like to draw, I like to read. There's many things that you can do. So, one thing that I put was, yo toco el piano. I play the piano. Yo toco el piano. Okay, I could also say, me gusta tocar el piano. I like to play the piano. So now that we've learned what querer is, we're going to switch it from what do you do on the weekends to what do you want to do this weekend. Okay, so go ahead and write that down. What do you want to do this weekend? Well, obviously that's going to change from what we see up here. What do you do versus what do you want to do? And remember, we just learned what want is. So you're going to write, ¿Qué quieres? What do you want? And then the word for to do is hacer. So, ¿Qué quieres hacer el fin de semana? And we remember we wrote this down when we were talking about days and months. The word el fin de semana was the end of the week or the weekend. So go ahead and push pause if you need to write this down. Okay, so I would say, I want to cook. So if I'm going to say I want to cook, I told you in the last slide that when you use I want, your next verb has to be an infinitive. So we are not going to be changing to cook. We're going to leave it as an infinitive. So what do you think you would say for I want to cook? How do you say I want? It's going to be yo quiero, and then obviously the word for to cook is cocinar. So yo quiero cocinar. Now this just kind of opens up a whole new thing of how to write. So you can say I cook, I like to cook, or I want to cook. So that kind of helps you out in your sentence writing. Go ahead and push pause if you need to stay and write. Moving on. Other irregular verbs that we want to know. So we're going to write this below our querer. We're not going to write them out today, but we need to know what these verbs are. You've seen ir before, which means to go. For example, tengo que irme. Do you remember what that meant? That meant I have to go. So we need to know that the word ir is to go. So go ahead and write that under querer on your irregular verb list. And we will write those meanings down later, the conjugations. The other verb I want you to write down is the word hacer. Hacer means to do or to make. Okay? Very important that you write both of those down. To do, or it can mean to make. The reason I needed you to write these two down is because when you do these examples, he wants to go with you. He wants to go with you. Well, if you notice, we already said he wants, so that verb is going to be conjugated. Uh-oh, here's the second verb. Do we conjugate the second verb? No, we do not. So the second verb is going to be ir. So go ahead and push pause and see if you can figure out what he wants to go with you is. Okay, with you is something we learned last semester. Remember how to say with you or with me? Think about how you add those endings. Okay, your answer should have been Él quiere ir contigo. Él quiere ir contigo. If you didn't get it right, go ahead and fix that now. The other one I wanted to write down as an example was, I want to do exercise. And we wrote to do exercise down when we were first learning about verbs, okay, which is hacer ejercicio. So I want to do exercise would be yo quiero hacer ejercicio. Go ahead and pause and write that down. Okay. The next thing on the list that we need to do is when somebody says, ¿Qué quieres hacer los fines de semana? What do you do on the weekends? If you want to explain that every Saturday you want to swim, you make the plural when you're talking about Saturdays, okay? So my example on this is if you say, I want to swim on Saturday, you're just talking about one Saturday. It would be this Saturday. So you would say, yo quiero nadar el sábado. You're just talking about one Saturday. But let's say you want to swim every Saturday. Okay? Every single Saturday you want to swim. All you have to do to change that sentence is change your L to los. That's the importance of knowing your thes. Okay? Because that goes from one Saturday to the Saturdays, which means every Saturday. So you're saying, I want to swim on Saturdays if you say, yo quiero nadar los sábados. Push pause if you need to continue writing. All right, let's practice. So you need to write these 4 down before we can continue, guys. You do have a homework assignment today, so the quicker we can get through these, the quicker you can get to your assignment, and you will be able to finish before the class ends. So let's practice. She wants to swim. She wants to swim. So think about how you would say she wants, and then you just have to think about to swim. She wants to swim. You should have had ella quiere nadar. Ella quiere nadar. Okay? Next one. They want to play soccer with me. They want to play soccer with me. So they want. All you have to do to this word to make it the they form is add what at the end? An N. So you would say, ellos quieren jugar al fútbol. And what I should have put at the end here, and I didn't, I'm sorry, the word with me, which would be conmigo. Conmigo. So don't forget to add that to the end. Conmigo. I want to draw with you. I want to draw with you. So instead of quiere or quieren, what form are you going to use for I want? Okay? You're going to say yo quiero dibujar contigo, which is with you. Contigo. Yo quiero dibujar contigo. And I did mention this before, but if you are old enough to remember, there was a Taco Bell commercial with a Chihuahua, and he would always say, Yo quiero Taco Bell. And that's where that comes from. I want Taco Bell is what he was saying. Just a little tidbit of information for you. And last but not least, you don't want to wear the skirt. Now, just like with the me gusta, remember it had a no me gusta? So where do you think your no is going to go? Right in front of the querer. So you want would be quieres, so it would be no quieres llevar la falda. No quieres llevar la falda. Now, I know I haven't given you llevar, so go ahead and just write that down. Make sure you know llevar means to wear. So that should give you some good examples to use. So what I'm going to ask you to do now, I'm going to go to the next slide. So if you need to pause this, go ahead. But if you are finished, we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And here is your assignment. You are going to grab a book from the counter. Okay? On Expressate, you're going to go to page 90, or in Spanish, 90. If you didn't get everything that was in this presentation, it will be on page 90 and 91. Okay, so if you look there, you can get anything that you missed. It should be all right in that book. Okay, you are going to get a piece of paper out and you are going to do activities 15 and 16 and 17. Okay, I will leave the answers with the sub. So if you are having issues with any of these activities, you may ask the sub and she can kind of guide you, or he can kind of guide you, whatever you are needing. Okay, you're going to turn this in before you leave today. It shouldn't be too hard. All right, please behave and listen to the sub, please, and I will see you tomorrow.